defend our zone until the time runs out.
Alright, well I guess that's what we've got to do. Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we are going to be playing Frontline, Wargaming's 30 vs 30 game mode, where the map is 9 times bigger than the biggest of maps inside World of Tanks. Now Frontline has been a hot topic, or should I say it's been an interesting topic to talk about over the last few months, because Wargaming are bringing back Frontline for 1 week every single month, and they're doing 10 different episodes which you can compete in to get the AE Phase 1 if you complete all 10 of the prestiges, which is roughly going to take me probably about 10 to 20 hours every single month that I can only play for a single week. Let's start this off with a little bit of artillery killage at the start of this front line. So one of my favourite things to do is to go up into that position if I spawn at B on the defending team and take my EBR-75 into position to see if I can shut down an artillery who wants to just sit out in the open. Usually artillery are so focused on trying to get the shots in, and I'm very happy to add them to my kill tally at the start of this game. We're loading high explosive rounds here that have 75mm of penetration, but wham bam, that is enough to be able to deal a significant amount of damage to the GW Tiger, taking him out in 2 shots, and then to be able to deal with the WZ-132. Now it looks like that Carnarvon had a damaged ammo rack. We could see that from having an Eagle Eye perk on our commander, not a perk that a lot of people will be using unless you have an exceptionally skilled crew. And I have Santa Claus as my commander on my EBR, so I think I've got him up to 7 skills. Hopefully I can push him over to 8 skills, although it's still going to take a little bit of time. So we're just going forwards and backwards there to try and avoid the shell from the Carnarvon. We get to finish him off, and within the first few minutes of this battle we're up to 2,000 damage and a couple of kills secured. And I believe we will be the first, well, should I say 3 kills secured, and we're the first sergeant in this game. Although, I have to admit, as you will have seen from the title, this is definitely not my average game of Frontline. This one is going to go, well, for the most part, exceedingly well. Alright, so let's get back to what I was talking about, why I've been playing Frontline so much. It is to get the AE Phase 1. Now that Wargaming have revealed it, do I really think it's investing all of that time? Well, if you're about halfway through like I am, yeah, probably worth investing it. But if you haven't even started, I probably wouldn't. I think it's going to take you far too long. Alright, so now, Frontline, what do you want to do? What's my biggest tip for gaining ranks quickly? That is to defend the cap circle. If you have engineering on a vehicle like the EBR and you just get inside it, look at these cap points that we are getting right now. We saw 16 cap points. And if you have engineering and you shoot tanks that are also inside the cap circle, you can interrupt them as well. And you can rack up a huge amount of experience, a huge amount of ranks up and towards. You can get major, you can get general very consistently as long as you are defending the cap circles. And so that's what I wanted to do there. Frankly, I don't really want to be sitting in an EBR when I'm defending that much. I want to be using something like a Projeto where I can really get some damage out. But we're already up to halfway through the sergeant rank just with aggressive plays. But more importantly, being in a position where you can harass the cap circle. Now the enemy team have actually done something very interesting here, and that is that they've just taken C really hard. That's usually a hard cap circle to be able to take, and the fact that they've just assaulted it instantly is really going to allow them to push on the front. If any of you haven't seen any of my Frontline videos on YouTube, basically you have to take each of the sections towards the defending base for us, and then they have to try and take the turreted objectives at the end. And if they can destroy 3 out of 5 of the objectives, that means that they're going to win the battle. And you can respawn as many times as you want. Or shall I say, you can't actually respawn as many times as you want because you can only respawn once every 5 minutes. Or shall I say you get 1 life every 5 minutes. And as you can see up here, that is the time that if I was to die right now, I would literally have to sit and wait for an entire minute before I was able to load back in. And you can pick any of your tier 8 tanks that you would want. For me, well, we're going to see a selection of what I think are the best Frontline vehicles. Now when I start, well, what's my initial vehicle that I would load into in Frontline? Well, it's got to be the EBR. Why is that? Because I can make that rushing defense to try and take out an artillery. But more importantly, when I am attacking, an EBR can quite often, if you've got a couple of them or 3 of them on each one of the fronts, rush into the cap circle and immediately cap and get a huge boost to the amount of experience you have. Alright, so it looks like we actually loop that shell a little bit from the left here, and that's because my tank is a bit skew-whiff, as we do have the right of our tracks to send it up these rocks, which is angling my turret and making my gun look like it's coming from a funny angle. We're not really getting the full viewports there. Alright, so having died in the EBR trying to look after the cap circle, now we spawned in the Projeto. This is the tier 8 Italian auto-reloading premium medium tank, and this is, I still think, the best all-round vehicle for Frontline. The fact that you can fire this tank as a single-shot vehicle, and it's just a decent medium tank if you do so. But when you use the auto-reloading functionality of this vehicle to dump out those 3 rounds for 720 and then reload them and then be able to play it like that, you can rack up a whopping amount of damage. But there's one thing that is very impressive about the Projeto inside Frontline. Look at the reload. 6.7 seconds, right. Look at what it goes down to when I inspired. 5.8. I think that's a 15% cruise skill increase for this vehicle, and that just makes this thing absolutely wild. So we've pushed forwards and we're asking for help from our T92 here, who does put 1 into the Scorpion G. I'm feeling a little bit bad that I actually probably unloaded all of my shells though, even though I wanted to get rid of the autoloader. Now we're using an artillery consumable, and inside this episode of Frontline, episode 5, medium tanks can take 2 consumables. And so I'm baiting that Scorpion around the corner and boom, 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 we secure a kill on him with our artillery barrage. Now we're going to turn our tracks in and we're going to shoot the tracks of the enemy Projeto. He misses once, he bounces off me, I know he's only got 1 left, and what I did on the other hand is I saving my shells. I'm not firing them until I know I can kill him with my remaining shots, and so we do so. Looks like he actually used the artillery barrage on us, but because we were not unloading all of our shells until we knew that we were ready to go after him, and because we had an Inspire, our combat capacity was just absolutely outrageous. These Italian auto-reloaders with that Inspire are just absolutely insane. Not only do they have really good gun handling, not only does their accuracy get really hemmed in from having that max level Inspire, but it's their single shot capacity that just makes them simply outrageous. And if you can play these things in platoons, and even if you don't have one, and you simply have the Pantera like I have on my free-to-play account, the very first game I played of Frontline on my free-to-play account, I used the Pantera, I used the EBR, which I grinded from the Mission Marathon, but mostly the Pantera, and I was able to get General in the very first game. These Italian auto-reloaders are almost designed for this, shall we say, calculated combat. So we've actually just managed to get Captain. Have we done that before anyone else? Yes, we have. We are the first Captain inside this Frontline battle. Let's see if we can keep it up on our quest to become the Baby General, or General Baby, I don't know. So 1 into the back of the Lorraine, and our 2-second intra-clip reload allows us to follow it up with the subsequent shell to shut down the Tier 8 auto-loading French medium tank. Now, will I be playing that tank later on inside this Frontline replay? Well, we're just going to have to wait and see. So when you're defending this A cap, it's all about this balance. It's about this balance of trying to control this high ground, but when they push through B, make sure you fall back into that position like a lot of our vehicles have to defend against the flank. If you don't defend this location here, then the enemies are going to be able to just push through, and then they're going to get shots into your side and they will easily be able to take the A cap. And considering the enemies are so focused on taking F, I thought that we would be able to make some good defense over here. Alright, so 1 into the Projeto. Am I going to fire a second? Doesn't look like I am. I'm going to wait for the reload so I can put more shells in. And that's because every shot you fire in this vehicle lowers the damage per minute that the vehicle has. And so unless I think I can kill a tank with my remaining shells, I'm always going to wait until I'm fully reloaded and so I can maximize my DPM. It looks a bit bizarre, right? I could shoot the Projeto, but no, I want to wait till I reload, because every time you fire in an Italian auto-reloader, you will be interrupting the reload and you're going to be a whole extra shell down. And so if you have that opportunity to wait to reload, and it's really going to maximize my opportunity for DPM here. But one thing that's not going to maximize my opportunity for DPM is the fact that I've run out of standard rounds. Now, this is very unusual. I'm at 8,200 damage and they haven't even managed to get past the B or the C cap. This game has been absolutely outrageous. We've been playing this one pretty much perfect. But running out of standard rounds, this is going to get a little bit expensive. And I think you're going to see us in the post-game stats. I think we're going to be able to afford it, right, ladies and gents? Because we are running credit boosters right now. And you're going to have to see what the what QuickyBaby inside one of his best Frontline games running credit boosters in a premium count is going to look like. We'll have to check it out. Alright, anyway, loading premium rounds here. It's not really makes too much of a difference against these weakly armored targets. We're going to fire 2 inside the Pantera, and then we're going to pull back, and we get Major. Is that the first Major of the battle? Yes, it is. In fact, nobody else on our team even has Captain, and we've just managed to smash through Major. Alright, that Pantera is such a juicy target. Why don't you fire? Why don't you fire? Why don't you fire? Well, we're going to wait till we've got 3 shells. So we're actually not going to fire again. I guess I'm really thinking about maximizing my DPM here. In retrospect, I think I should have fired that second shot. But yeah, that's a bit of a misplay. But I'm just wanting to look after the cap circle. And at this stage, I was just so hell-bent on trying to maximize my DPM, so I'm able to do so. And as we can see with an Inspire up again, this vehicle, even in single shot mode, is absolutely crazy. And we are whacking out a huge amount of damage per minute here that if we were to fire all of our shots that we simply wouldn't be able to achieve. We're just putting in round after round, but talk about round after round. We don't have very many rounds or even much hit points left. We got 5 APCR rounds here. Will we put one into the LTTB? Oh, it goes high and left, so we ricochet off the side of the lightly... No, I can't call that thing lightly armored. The Tier 8 Soviet light tank. Now we bounce off the upper plate of the T-32. I'm going to wait for a reload, and these are going to be my last 3 shots, so I might as well fire them out willy-nilly now. We bounce off the LT's lower plate, and we're going to be able to put one into the upper plate of the T-32, and now we are reloading high explosive rounds. But luckily, it looks like we held off the cap circle long enough for our team to be able to get there. And we have another captain on our team who's hopefully there in their black dog defending that cap circle. Alright, well, I think I'm about done from that position, right? 10,000 damage, halfway through the major rank, even though this battle is only just beginning, and down to 3 high explosive rounds. Yeah, I think it's about time we get back towards the cap circle. Now, I do have an artillery barrage, but there's no point in really just firing them around for no reason. I really want to try and use them when I lock down the tracks of my opponents, or alternatively as a last-ditch attempt to try and protect the cap circle, because if you can use them to protect the cap circle and you get yourself a lot of defender points, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that is the best way to consistently get major or to get general inside your frontline games. It is all about capping and it is all about defending. If you do that, and you can... I guess if you can master the art of capping and also defending the cap circle, then you will be getting general in more games than you are not. Or at least that's what it's like for me. Sometimes I'll play a 2-hour session where I get general in every single game. Sometimes I guess I'm feeling a little bit bad and maybe we get a little bit unlucky and we might miss a general rank in a few rounds. But usually the only time we miss a general rank is when the enemy team just win too quickly, or we win too quickly, or alternatively when the enemies don't actually ever manage to push on. Alright, so we're going to miss one round here, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, artillery barrage, look at those 2 juicy heavies. Let's see how much damage we're going to do to the IS-3 and to the IS-6. Alright, we're going to put one into the side of the IS-3. We're doing some damage to the IS-6 there. It's actually not that much. We only do, we do a lot of crits. That's 10 crits. That's decent amount of crits. But it's not actually a huge amount of damage. But we do get general before anyone else in this entire game gets major. And that's pretty much down to the fact that we are picking up a lot of the base defense points. Look, this guy, even though he's got 9 kills, 10 kills, he's not even major yet. But that's because maybe he doesn't have 11,000 damage. I don't know. Maybe he's just kill stealing. But more importantly, it's about working the defensive position and also just making sure you're interrupting the cap as much as you possibly can. Now, I don't actually have engineering on my Projeto. Imagine if I did. And finally, our luck runs out, boys and girls. The enemies are going to be able to cap there, and the Emil is putting some pressure on me from the side because we're not using engineering. We're not going to be able to use that repair depot anytime soon, and I realize we are not getting away. Not any longer, now that the artillery has prevented our escape by tracking us. And I realize, okay, we're not running away. Let's just see if we can go down kicking and screaming. Let's get to this ridge. Let's whack up and inspire. And let's make a final stand against the enemy's advance. So we hit the LT 432 once. We hit him twice. But unfortunately, we missed the 3rd shot. Are we going to be able to reload to get a final one in before our inevitable demise against an onslaught of enemy vehicles, which we've held back for the last 5 minutes? Yeah, we will. We will get an extra shot in. Not too shabby, and the Emil manages to finish us off. The Emil also probably one of the better vehicles for this game mode, although it's just a little bit too slow. Now that it has been buffed and it has all of that side armor, I think for a free-to-play account, definitely not too bad. But probably better to use something like a 5100, especially when you are having to defend the objectives, because if you defend the objectives in a 5100, that 6-round French autoloader is simply monstrous. Alright, so now we're going to go and focus on the other flank. We're going to go and try and defend the F-cap, because that's where I thought the enemies would be pushing. I didn't think that D was really an area where we were going to be able to defend effectively, because there were just too many attackers and not enough defenders. There's no point in being the only tank on a defending flank. You're not really going to be able to interrupt 5 or 6 vehicles unless you're in some kind of an autoloader, or maybe you just drive around in the cap circle in an EBR. But as we saw right at the start of this game, you're not going to last too long if you do that. I think the F circle is actually very easy to defend. The D circle, quite hard to defend, frankly. The F circle's right out in the open, and as long as you manage to get yourself into a decent position like up here, or alternatively get yourself in this position, you can just manage to get huge amounts of interrupts. One thing I like about the T-92 is this is one of my defending and also one of my attacking light tanks. I like to use this with its engineering capacity so we can try and harass the enemy team in the cap circle, and I've ended up in some situations where I get 50, 60, 70 base defense points just by shooting the enemies one by one. You don't have to actually deal a large amount of damage to be able to get your base defense points. All you have to do is have that engineering perk that you see on my 7 key, and it's the first one that I always get whenever I prestige inside Frontline, and then just shoot each tank once. Even a crit will be enough to hold back their capping for, I believe, 10 seconds. And so when you've got a rate of fire as wild as you do in the T-92 light tank, that means that you can be shooting multiple enemy vehicles and just racking up those defense points in a wild fashion. Now, what are the vehicles that are not premium that you could use to be doing that? Well, frankly, everything. You could be using yourself the tier 8, the tier 8 American standard light tank, of which I can't actually think what it is now. It's the one before the T-49. Is it? It's the Bulldog, right? Yeah, you could be doing this with the Bulldog. You're just a little bit bigger. You probably got a little bit worse camo. You could definitely manage that. I wish the old school Bulldog with the 10-round autoloader was available in the Frontline game mode, but alas, that's not the case. Alright, so I'm loading a high explosive round here, and I'm trying to find that M40-43, but unfortunately we are going to meet our match in the form of 2 light tanks. What are these gents doing here? Luckily, we only take 1 penetrating shell from the EBR, but he is loading high explosive rounds. The Bulldog is also loading high explosive rounds. And, oh, a bit of a disaster. We get absolutely shut down there by a variety of light tanks who seem to want to make their way down that slope. Were they in a platoon together? No, it doesn't look like it. It looks like it was the LT-432 who was the one who shut me down, unless he's in a platoon. Oh, no, wait a minute, they were. It was the LT-432 and the EBR here. Did they have a 3-man platoon? No, the Projeto's on the other flank, so I don't think he was the one who got me. Alright, so it didn't quite work out for us in our T-92, because frankly the enemies didn't push the cap circle. I was really hoping they were, however they didn't, so not a good life there. But still, we're doing pretty well as we are on general, and 13,000 damage and 4,000 spotting. Alright, so now we're going to spawn in the Lorraine. This is the tier 8 French autoloading medium tank. Very similar to a 5100, just but with much better camo rating. There's not really a standard equivalent to this down the French tech tree at tier 8 medium, just thinking what it would be. What is packing down there? Actually, it's going to be the light tank, isn't it? It's going to be the Bat Chatillon 12T, which leads on to a whole variety of vehicles. Yeah, I think while the Bat Chatillon 12T is not too bad, I would probably rather play the Lynx. The Lynx is also a rather good vehicle for Frontline, a lot like the EBR 75 at tier 8, although just also not quite there. The Lynx does have the better high explosive rounds, 90mm of penetration, and very good alpha damage, I believe 320 high explosive alpha. But it's just the fact that the vehicle doesn't quite go backwards as fast as the EBR 75 does, or alternatively just that 1-2 APCR rounds that you do get on the standard EBR that just all that jazz. I just love them. I love the EBR, the premium vehicle, compared to the Lynx. Alright, so we're going to be reloading here, and finally the enemies are pushing the cap circle. It also looks like they're using a smoke screen. That's going to be rather unfortunate for us. Hopefully we're going to be able to still have some vision here against the cap circle. The LT-432 caught right out in the open, trying to find a round into the back of him here, and we're going to shoot the Stritzfang S1. Horrendous luck there to not hit the hull armor of the S1 and overmatch him. But luckily we do put a round into the T-44. We put one into the Jagdpanther 2, and we put another one that just goes low and right, but at least we're going to track him, and hopefully our team will be able to finish him off for that. Pretty bad luck there in the Lorraine. Usually you can be reliable with this vehicle. It has fantastic standard penetration, and I believe, was it 232mm of standard pen? Yeah, that's great. And with the 1,200 alpha damage that this vehicle has, that is absolutely monstrous. Combine that with an Inspire, and yeah, you can be putting off some accurate assaults on the enemy team, even against heavy tanks. And that's really the key difference between the Lorraine and the Projeto. I'll use the Projeto when I want to be putting punishing rounds out. Just, you know, pitter-patter against my opponents, and that 212 millimeters of penetration isn't going to hold me back. The Lorraine is what I'll pick when I just need absolute bursts of damage. And I'll talk about bursts of damage. Hopefully we can put a few rounds in here into the Scorpion G. Funny enough, he doesn't spot me. Either that or I'm spotted the whole time. That's a completely dangerous thing to have inside World of Tanks, and I realize, yeah, probably don't want to go too far forwards. I'm thinking about putting down the barrage there, but I don't actually use it on the Scorpion G. I'm going forwards to go and try and get him, but instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and lock the tracks down of the LT-432 twice, and you'll see that I track him twice, and then I try to use the artillery barrage. But where am I? I get completely confused. And do you know what happened there, ladies and gents, and something that I just realized about how the artillery barrage works? What happens is the artillery barrage goes where you're aiming. And for some reason, I was aiming underneath the LT-432 when I clicked my artillery barrage. And so what that meant is that because I was aiming underneath him and I was aiming at the distance behind him, I got completely confused about where I was. And then I couldn't for the life of me actually figure it out. But there's 2 tips that I have for you to stop that from happening next time. Number 1, actually aim your reticle at him before you click your artillery barrage. Or even maybe slightly underneath him. Not underneath his tank and aiming at the horizon behind you like I did, but aim at the ground underneath, or just aim next to the vehicle. Then click your artillery barrage and then you'll be able to find him quickly. Next, one thing that I noticed is that when you use the artillery barrage, your tank actually has a green circle around them on the minimap. And so if you get completely disorientated like I did there, use that to your advantage to be able to catch out where you are. Alright, so that EBR is driving around in the cap circle, and somehow he manages to ricochet my shell, but he doesn't manage to ricochet my second shell, and we do get 22 base defense points. But this is quite awkward because there's a Lorraine behind me, but I don't feel like I can focus on the Lorraine behind me. I should probably focus on the cap circle. But no, actually I have to, because he's going into the repair depot. So wait for him to enter the repair depot, then we'll shoot him and we'll track him. Next we'll focus up on the next Projeto. And now I realize, oh my word, 8 seconds left. I need to focus on this T-44-100. Luckily somebody's entered the cap circle. We're going to put 1 round through the upper plate. 43 base defense points, and this is where you really start to get a huge amount of experience, ladies and gents. But unluckily for me, Projeto puts 1 in from behind. I use my fire extinguisher to give me enough time to be able to get 1 extra round into the vehicle that's inside the cap circle to get as many base defense points as I possibly can. Try and maximize my experience before my inevitable demise here in the hands of the Lynx. Got me good there, but you know, I felt like my attention was just divided. Maybe it would have actually been the better play to go after the Lynx there rather than get the base interrupt points, but to be honest, once they've taken the other 2 zones, it's really, really hard to defend the cap circle because they get a bonus to capping, and so it can become quite tricky indeed. Alright, so all of the bases have now been lost. The enemies have taken 2 of our turrets, so they only have to get 1 more. So what's my plan? Well, obviously it's this assault down the east. I need to quell this assault. Quite often what will happen is all of the enemies will flock towards the final point, obviously, and that was F. And then after they've taken F, what are they going to do? Well, then they're just going to keep on spearheading right down your flank. Seeing how we've lost objective 1 and 2, and we've got a huge glut of tanks over here, what we need is for our team to get away from 1 fast. And you actually see that I say that in chat, because right now we have to get our team away from here and get them in around here, catch these guys spawning, and make their way towards 4 cap. And so what I need to do is I need to protect the 5 cap as well as I can from all of the enemy tanks. So it looks like we managed to put 3 out of 4 there in that magazine. Not too shabby. We are now up to near 7,000 spotting and 17,000 damage. Let's see if we can keep this one going and get ever closer towards the magical 20k mark. How many kills are we up to now, General? 10 kills? Well, it looks like somebody on the enemy team's up to 16, so GG to them. Looks like they've been focusing on kill securing a little bit more than me, which is always great when you're playing in a platoon. When you're playing Frontline in a platoon, oh, it's so easy to be able to just make much more significant plays. I get that feeling when I'm playing with Phil, when I'm playing with M4, even when all 3 of us are playing together. Oh, lovely shot there into the tracks of the Bat Chatillon 12T. I tried to put another one in. And right now, you've actually seen me load in my Samoa SM. And this is one of my favorite tanks for Frontline. It's basically like a heavy Lorraine. It's a Lorraine with a few more hit points, but more importantly, an extra shell in the magazine, and also I believe some extra damage per minute, and also an unload speed of 2.5 seconds. This thing is capable of huge damage output, 1,500 damage per magazine. And so even if you just connect like 4 out of 5 of those shells, you are putting out thousands of damage every single magazine. And it's just great for rolling in to a crunch engagement, just like I knew was going to be here. I'm spamming the map saying, come on guys, defend 4, defend 5. I really wanted to win this one. It's right down to the wire. We've got an hour and a half. I wish we... No. If we had an hour and a half left, I think this would be incredibly hard. We've got a minute and a half left on this game. And look, they're right in between caps 4 and 5. What am I going to spawn in? Well, I've got to go spawn in the EBR. I've got to try and spawn at the back of the map of 5, and I've got to try and crunch in to try and get rid of that Bat Chatillon. I've got to try and defend the 4 cap as well. I've got to try and do everything that I possibly can to try and defend the final cap point. Obviously, they're not going to take 3. Finally, that big glut of tanks that were over towards the 1 cap have managed to get over. There's 1 kill. Hopefully, I could manage to pick up the 2nd. Didn't need to, however. So now we're going to reload and see if we can get over towards the 4 cap to be able to protect it from the IS-3A, who's evidently auto-loading right into the side. Luckily, looks like the Lorraine finishes off the IS-3A. That flank feels a little bit more secure, so I'm thinking about instead just going and polishing off some of the tanks like the Lansen, who may be going to try and get some side shots on the defenders, or alternatively, they might be able to turn around to engage Objective 5. Alright, now we're up to 18,500 damage. Are we going to be able to hit that magical 20k? Well, possibly, on the side of this IS-3. Come on, let's get an ammo rack. Let's get an ammo rack or a fire. Well, not quite, but 382 damage will do. Actually, we did get a fire, but unfortunately, he's blooming using some kind of premium fire extinguisher. Or maybe the Bat Chat just finished him off while he was on fire. Oh, mate, couldn't you just let him burn for me? Oh well, let's not worry about that. I'm going to ignore the LT-432 and instead focus on this Lansen. We put 1 into the back of the Lansen, turn our attention towards the Black Dog, put another 1 inside the Black Dog. We're going to reload high explosive rounds, but I don't think they're going to be able to survive, so I'm looking around to see if we can manage to find some more damage in this game. High explosive rounds loaded, and oh no! Just shy 19,000 damage dealt, but maybe we spotted something, right? Let's take a look at the post-game stats, and what a victory. This was a close one. Felt absolutely amazing at the time. Definitely one of my best games in Frontline this year, although I did have some absolutely killer games last year while it was out as kind of like that beta test mode, when I don't think everybody was quite so polished as they are now, and I think the competition was a little bit easier. So yes, ladies and gents, boys and girls, this was an absolute cracker of a game. 25,000 experience, 733,000 credits, 7,600 assistance, and over 19,000 damage. No, why? Only 85 short of 20k. Well, you know what? I'm going to take that as 20k anyway. 4,766 base. This was just absolutely ludicrous. And take a look at the profit. After repair and resupply, 650,000 credits for a single game. I made that in half an hour. Okay, I wasn't even using a platoon bonus or anything that I think does work inside Frontline. This was an outrageous round of World of Tanks, if ever there was one. And if I'm honest, it does come down to the power of the autoloader. But as I have featured free-to-play Frontlines on this channel before, vehicles that you should go for, obviously tanks like the Projeto is fantastic, but if you can't get one of those because you didn't do it while it was the Mission Marathon reward, then the Pantera is your best friend, the 5100 is your best friend, like tanks like the Bulldog or the LTTB are still going to be great for you. But without a doubt, my biggest and best tip, if you want to have games like this inside Frontline, is to make sure that you are always trying to attack, or more importantly, defend the cap circle. Engineering is incredible on all of your light tanks, especially when you're just interrupting. But I think Inspire, if you have all Italian auto reloaders, can allow you to just push your game to the absolute and utter next level. Inspire isn't quite so important on vehicles like the Samoa SM or alternatively like the Lorraine, but I have to admit it does make for a magical unload with pinpoint accuracy and way better gun handling when you do use the Inspire as you are unloading, and then you're probably still going to be able to get in a full reload and then get another unload if you manage to position yourself correctly, so it can still be very powerful. Undoubtedly, Episode 5 of Frontline Wargaming have made huge changes to it, with removing 2 of the consumable slots away from light tanks. They're not nearly as powerful as they were previously. Heavy tanks, instead, now have 3 instead of 1, so they are undoubtedly better. And your heavy autoloaders, like your Mil 1951 and your Samoa SM, are more powerful than ever. But I think the real sweet spot right now would probably be auto-reloading medium tanks. If you can get your hands on the Projeto 46, the Lorraine, or the Pantera, those things are absolutely monstrous. I would probably take, if I was just trying to grind for general ranks and I didn't want to try and maximize the 1v1s, I would probably take Inspire and Engineering on that and try and absolutely focus on the cap circle, especially on defense. But I have to admit, the artillery barrage does allow you to get out of some real sticky situations, as you would have saw multiple times inside this gameplay, or at least when I'm not faffing around all over the map. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was my best game of Frontline so far. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, give the video a thumbs up, but if you absolutely hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments whether you are absolutely hating Frontline. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm absolutely bored of this game mode by now. Wargaming, please. We either need different tanks for the game mode, even though there are loads at tier 8. Let's just say, have an episode where we can't play premium tanks for once. That would be fun. Maybe have an episode where it's tier 9. Have an episode where it's tier 10. Have an episode where it's tier 7. Just have a break from the tier 8 monotony. Get that new map out quickly. Do something. You've got to make it exciting. I feel like I'm just being forced to play this for 10 to 20 hours each month. And while I undoubtedly do have some fun while I'm playing it, it's definitely getting a bit old now. And I think with your forcing of us to have to play Frontline so much every single month if we want to get ourselves the AE Phase 2, it's changing from being a release from the random queue to now being something where I feel that the random queue is an escape once I play it. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.